Welcome everybody to the video version of Tales from the Jar Side, the newsletter. This week's title is Tales from the Jar Side, a CSI YouTube video. I'll have to explain that. A few YouTube shorts. My objections to evaluating training class students. The challenge there is not to go off on too much of a rant. My new Tesla bumper sticker, sort of. A poll about my new logo, and the usual tweets and toots. The subtitle is, this is an old gag, but still funny, I'm afraid of overly intricate buildings. I have a complex. Sorry, I thought I had it ready. Let me try it again, the rim shot here. There we go. I actually have a shortcut on my desktop to that now. It doesn't help if it takes a while to start up though, but so be it. Okay, let's see. Welcome, fellow jarheads, to Tales from the Jar Side, the Cousin IT newsletter for the week of June 25th through July 2nd. Wrong. You know, I used to say time zones are going to be the enemy, but maybe it's just dates and times in general. No, that's this week. Last week ended June, let's say 25th, so that would be June 17th through 25th. It's really 18th through 25th to be the Monday, but let's count Sunday because that's when the newsletter came out. Something like that, up through the 25th. And no, I went and looked up the dates and everything and wound up putting in the current week's dates instead of last week's dates. What are you going to do? This week I taught my Reactive Spring training course on the O'Reilly Learning Platform in the so-called APAC time zones. That's Asia Pacific. Was also active on YouTube, publishing one long-form video and 3 YouTube shorts. Now, when I teach a class in the APAC time zones on O'Reilly, that usually means evening time for me in Connecticut, which means 7 to 11 p.m. or 8 p.m. to midnight. That's still very early for India and others. Sometimes when I teach directly there, then they want me to go 2 a.m. or something, which is their early afternoon or something. So it depends, but that's what we have at the moment, and that's what I did last week. Regular readers of and listeners to, and of course video viewers of this newsletter are affectionately known as jarheads and are far more intelligent, sophisticated, and attractive than the average newsletter reader or viewer or listener. If you wish to become a jarhead, please subscribe using the button in the newsletter. I should also take a look at our weekly view of the Tales from the Jar Side YouTube channel. So let me go to the homepage there. And here we are on the homepage. And we are up to, actually, let me refresh this, see if anything's changed. No, we are up to 425 subscribers to the YouTube channel. Yes, indeed. I took a screenshot when I hit 420 exactly. That was mostly for my son. I didn't have any gag prepared, so I didn't tweet about it. I probably would have said something like, gee, that number's getting pretty high, right? Wait a minute. Let's try again. I got to get more efficient at that. I'm just going to have to bring it up. There we go. Okay, now I'm ready for next time. But I didn't do anything with it. I just said whatever, that's fine. So there's the YouTube channel, making progress. Let's talk about the activity on the YouTube channel. Now, I've noticed an odd thing about including the YouTube videos in this newsletter. Normally, when you go to a video on YouTube and I click the 3 dots to the right, let's scroll up in case I decide to use that area here. Click the 3 dots to the right, there's a share link. And when I hit the share link, that says, oops, I just made it go away. Let's try again. Then there's a little link here that I can use, but you can tell that's a shortened link. So that's YouTube shortened it clearly, but I could hit copy and paste it in. If I do that in the newsletter editor, the one provided by Substack, I could paste in that link and it does in fact turn into the video. But I discovered last week when I went to look at my newsletter on the Substack app, it doesn't include the video. It includes a space for it. It just didn't put the player in there or anything. I have no idea why. So now I went in and actually went to the video and copied the URL out of the browser and pasted it in, and that seems to work better. So go figure. Now this video is called CSI Dan Vega, HTTP interfaces in Spring Boot in parallel and everything. I mean, actually, maybe it's easier to see it over here. CSI Dan Vega, HTTP interfaces in Spring Boot 3. Murder. Whoops, didn't mean to hit the play here. In parallel and everything. Yes, we got it all. And the teaser says, murder, conspiracy, code conduct unbecoming. At least one of these crimes, let you guess which one, is important in CSI Dan Vega HTTP interfaces in Spring Boot 3. The idea was, I watched a couple of videos on Dan Vega's channel, and here is his channel. Let me go over to that. Dan Vega. So he has like 32,600 some subscribers, and he writes on Spring-related topics all the time. I had him on my live stream a few weeks ago. And recently he put up 2 videos together, one on the Spring interface, Spring HTTP interface clients, and one on how to add request headers to HTTP interface clients. And I was watching those, and he used a website that I had never used before as his client. And it's this thing called JSON Placeholder, which is at jasonplaceholder.typeofcode.com, however you pronounce that. I've magnified it a lot, so it's a little hard to see here, but that's the idea. And if you scroll down, you discover that they provide a whole bunch of endpoints with preloaded content, but it isn't just a bunch of GET requests like I'm used to dealing with. This one can support POST requests, put, patch, and delete requests as well. So I thought I'd take his inspiration from his video, the idea of using both the web client class in Spring Boot to access some of these URLs and the HTTP interface mechanisms. I also noticed that in his video, a lot of the commenters, the people who added comments on them, asked about error handling. And I thought I could put something basic in there about error handling as well. And I did. Now, one thing I want to mention about it before I leave the rest to you, this is the code in the GitHub repository. What you'll see is that I actually checked to see the posts that exist from post 1 through post 100. I guess I should go back here. If you click on like post/1, you get that particular post, and you could put an ID at the end to get the one that's there. And as they mentioned up at the top here, there are 100 posts in there, inside there, numbered from 1 to 100. So I wanted to demonstrate they all existed, and I used an int stream with a range closed from 1 to 100. Now, if I take out this parallel, then what happens is I get a sequential stream that calls get post 100 times, get back an optional that's present, check the ID. And let me just give you an idea how long it takes for this to run. I'm going to execute it, and I'll let you know. So it just started, and we're running and we're running and we're running because it's doing 100 individual posts here and there. Now it's done. So they're all there. You can actually see the URLs and everything. There's a URL and then a response and a URL and a response, and over and over and over again. And you can see they're all consecutive. Well, I thought these posts are all independent of each other. Why don't I try doing it in parallel using the common fork join pool on my system? Well, look at the difference here. And we're running and we're done. That's it. And you can actually see if I highlight it, now the numbers are all kind of mixed up. There's an 89 and a 16 and a 58, and there's a bunch of responses, and then there's a bunch more, 17 and 80 and 87 and on and on. Here they're mixed in and out. They're all running in parallel, and it probably improved the performance by at least a factor of 5, maybe a factor of 10. I mean, a lot, which was kind of neat. So that was nice to be able to show that. I also did all the error handling that I mentioned and a few other things. But now it's time for the admission. So if I scroll down in the newsletter, that the secondary goal of making this video was to leverage his success on YouTube to my own benefit. What I really want is that when people watch his video, then under the suggested list, they recommend mine as well, because they're related, right? I don't know. It's just a thought. It's a strategy. And it really was inspired by what he did. I also thought he would laugh And apparently that worked out. He did, in fact, laugh about it. I mean, hopefully if you watch mine, his will be in the suggested video for mine, but that's not going to move his numbers at all. Last thing is, I should mention that my son, my unofficial, official social media consultant, helped me on the thumbnail, which you saw before. If I go back here. Oops, let's start it up again. Let's back it up all the way to the beginning. You can kind of see the thumbnail there. I don't know. It's a little small, and now I moused over it, so it's messed it up. But maybe if I go under videos, it'll be a little clearer there. Yeah, you could see I'm in there, and then he's in there as well, and we've got the CSI, and I had to put in the code scene investigations over top of where it said crime scene investigations on that panel there. I was worried about copyright strikes, but nothing came up. Everything seems to be fine, so far so good. Feel free to take a look. It looks like we have just under 100 views. I thought we had more. Maybe if I refresh this. It still says 99. Hey, you could be video viewer number 100. Let's go back. The other thing is the funny part, such as it is, if you're not technical and you don't care about Spring or any of that, you can take a look starting at 21:58. So like the 22-minute mark, I bring back the jury verdict and talk about the actual crimes that were committed. There's also a link there to the GitHub repository in case you want any of that code. Okay, next section. I made 3 YouTube shorts last week. One where I trained Descript on my voice so I could overdub text that I never said. I mentioned this in the newsletter last week, but it wasn't until I actually recorded the video on Monday that I put a line in Descript and said, hey, say this in the other voice. As a matter of fact, I should show you that. Not in the short. You could take a look at the short if you want, but let me bring that up too. It'll only take a moment. Okay, this is Descript with the short loaded in here. You can see ultra realistic voice cloning with overdub and everything. And this is the part I talk about. And the part in blue here, this is the part that I never said. Here is an example. This is text that I didn't say. So anything you hear is coming from the overdub. And that was from the overdub directly. I don't know, I didn't make it very loud here, but you got a chance to hear it. If you want to see more, go watch the short or whatever. I'm going to have to figure out, how to play with that a bit more in the future. Maybe I should have made the passage longer or something. My son said, yeah, it was so close to my voice that it wasn't really that different. Let's go back to the newsletter. The other 2 videos, or the shorts I made, were both extracted from the live stream I did with Nate Shuda. One on his unique presentation slides, where he basically uses 1 line per slide. I mean, after all, there's no paper copy. So what are we saving phosphors, or something like that? I mean, so he'll wind up with 200 slides to do in a short talk, but they're all 1 line each, and he's got everything timed. It goes right through. It was really interesting. So I asked him about that. And I also told the little anecdote about how he once wandered into a room at a No Fluff conference and walked to the front of the room and basically said, so what talk am I giving? What am I talking about? It was great. So if you want to see those, you can, or you can watch the live stream. Now that reminds me, something I also forgot to put in the newsletter. If I go back to my website, that I have a new live stream scheduled here. This week, I will be talking to Jonathan Johnson. Shoot, it's got the word upcoming in front of his name. So I still don't have all the bugs worked out here. But, well, maybe if I click on it because it isn't started yet. Yeah, there, now you can see it. So this is, and good, it's got the live in front of my name. Well, you know who I am here. So this is a live stream that will happen this week on Wednesday at 3 in the afternoon. I'll be talking to Jonathan. Jonathan is a fellow No Fluff speaker, but he's much more of an expert on the ops side of DevOps. He's a Java developer, but he knows Kubernetes really, really well. He's worked in a variety of industries. He's also a professor at Trinity College in Hartford, too. So he's an interesting guy with a very varied background. I think we'll have fun talking this Wednesday. If you happen to be around and you're willing to jump in on the live stream and make a comment or ask a question, please feel free to do so. I will post the link again on Twitter and LinkedIn when we're about a half hour, an hour, something like that beforehand. As a reminder, you can always click the notification bell. I already did it on my regular personal account, but you could click it on yours and it'll send you a message when we're about ready to get going. I guess I should also point out that I did the same thing on LinkedIn. Yeah, here was my post again about the live stream there. And that one I'm already marked as attending, apparently, probably because I created it. But I think there's a link to let you jump in as well. So attend on whichever one you want. I tried to add Twitter too, but something weird's going on with the Twitter API. I'm not at all surprised that had some issues. Okay, let's move on. Okay, this section, I have to warn you, I have strong feelings about, so the danger is I'll get off on a rant, but so be it. One of my training company clients hosts some of my video courses that I made in a studio and everything. Some of them are dated, some of them I've been updating more recently, but I've recorded a bunch of courses there and I like that. Well, it turns out that some of their clients have requested a question bank, a bank of questions that can be added to the course so that attendees can take these questions and evaluate their progress or find out how well they understood or learned the material. Okay, I have major philosophical issues with that entire idea. As I say, I was asked to generate over 100 questions for a video training course I was in the process of updating. In all the years I've been training, I have never once been asked by a student for a set of evaluation questions where they could find out how much progress they've made. The only exception to that being is if they were planning to use my training course as a way to prepare for some certification exam. Then they might want to know what typical certification exam questions are. But they're not asking me to come up with questions. So who's asking for these questions? I can only assume it's the managers. It's the managers in the company that paid for the training and are some kind of, quote, data-driven organization, boy, there's a dangerous phrase, who wants to evaluate based on some performance metrics whether the cost of the training class was worth it. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of the difference between academic training and training courses. In school, people are there to learn a body of knowledge and then maybe other bodies of knowledge that rest on that. When I teach Java development to academic students, it's because they need concepts of object-oriented programming or functional programming for their future, and they may need that practical skill in future courses as part of their program. All well and good. They have a body of knowledge. They're going to need it because there's no way to know which parts they really actively need and which parts are not necessarily going to come up a lot. In a training class, people come in because they've got a problem they're working on right now. They're either in the middle of a problem or they're maintaining code somewhere, or their company is adopting a new technology, or they're planning to restructure something some way, or they've been working with this technology and they don't really understand it. They need to know the background now. Now that they have played with it a little bit, they want to understand the fundamentals. That's a very different situation. In a course in a college, when the students enter, you have to create what they call the need to know. Why do you need to know this stuff? And if you don't create a good need to know, it degenerates down to, what do I need to know to get an A? What do I need to know to get a B, etc. In a training class, people come in with a need to know. I need to know how to do this problem. And my job is to figure out what their need to know is and customize the training and the material to try to satisfy it. Because the fundamental difference between academic teaching and training class teaching is that in school, I'm grading you. But in training classes, you're grading me. You're the ones with the power here. If I don't customize what I'm supposed to teach to your needs, I get bad evals. It doesn't matter that my training materials are wonderful and all this stuff. So why am I grading you? There's no reason for me to be grading you. You're not in to learn the body of material. You're here to learn what you need so that you can go use it tomorrow and solve the problem that you have. It's a completely different approach to teaching. it changes everything. So at any rate, I tried making that argument, as you might imagine, that making an arbitrary test, and you know that any grade and any testing, even in academic circles, even among the hardest of hard subjects, should come with massive error bars. Because if somebody got a B, then it could have been an A, it could have been a C. You don't really know. It depends on so many factors. The test that was given, the day the person took the test. Anybody can have a bad day, anybody can have a good day. Depends on whether they anticipated the questions correctly or not. It depends on whether the questions were any good or not. There's so many potential sources of randomness, not to mention actual error, that grading is not worthless, but it's not nearly the value that people ascribe to it. I tried my best to make these arguments to my training company client, and as you are no doubt anticipating, they went nowhere. Of course they did. The reason the training company's doing it is not because they think students should be assessed, it's because their client asked for it. So if the client asked for it, we got to provide it. Okay, I get it. So it's one of those hopeless arguments where I vented my frustrations, but then I have to do it anyway. So I did, by the way, they said, if you don't want to do it, we'll get somebody else. And I said, fine, get somebody else. And 2 weeks later, they're back like, no, we really want you to do it, meaning they couldn't get somebody else to do it. So my original approach was to take the highly passive-aggressive approach of saying, okay, here's my questions. Which of the following letters is B? And give as options A, B, C, and D, and have them pick B, right? Needless to say, the client wouldn't go for that either. I tried. I'd like to make them all simple questions, because why should I give the managers ammunition to mark down the students? Remember, they're grading me. Why do I want to make their life any harder, you know? So what ultimately happened is I realized I have access to these AI tools like ChatGPT and Google's Bard. Bard turned out to be the key here because the spreadsheet that they were using was in Google Sheets, and the question bank was going to be in Google Docs, and therefore if I could use Google Tools in the middle, maybe I could generate things and merge them all together. All I'll say about the process is it took way more time than it should have, and my feeling about all the Google tools was verified, which is, boy, they really don't get it, do they, on whatever they're trying to do? But I think I can work with this. And that's kind of what happened. I may make a video about this whole process. It's kind of notable in that, in fact, I actually found a use case for the JWeb server in Java 18, interestingly enough. If I make the video, I'll talk about it in a future newsletter. Let's move on to the next section. And a few newsletters ago, I mentioned I made a bumper sticker that talked about Elon Musk being slime, but I really like the car. So I made this nice little image based on it. It looks like I'm at a Tesla charging station, but the truth is I just put that in the background. Here's the actual bumper sticker. I ordered a physical one, so I've got one now. It says, Elon Musk is slime, I just like the car. And that's still true, and actually more so. I like my car, and Elon Musk is more slime than I thought he was when I made the bumper sticker. We'll get to that a little bit later. The next section here was about the fact I took Canva and tried to design a new logo. See, my original one is down here, the one that says Tales from the Jar Side. I made that in Google Docs when I first started up the channel. Actually, I think I made that back when I was just starting up the newsletter. So that thing's several years old, and it looks, like you made it in Google Docs, whatever. So I tried making one from a template in Google Slides, and I thought that looked pretty good. Tales from the Jar Side. And this is something called a word mark. I never heard the term word mark, but a word mark, apparently, according to Wikipedia, is a distinct text-only typographic treatment of the name of a company, institution, or product name used for purposes of identification and branding. Well, okay. I thought, I like it. I think it's okay. It's not perfect. So I decided to run a little poll. And if I go back to my channel here and go to the community tab, you could see I've got this little poll running. Oh, it looks like I got 14 votes now. And a bunch of them are for the new one and a couple are for the old one. I really should have added a none of the above, because I got at least one email from good old Jonathan of all people saying, I didn't really like either of them, and here's a link to an AI logo creation site. So you could have AI create the logo for you and then pay them for it. Yeah, I'll be getting right on that. Oh, well. If you feel like voting, great. If not, that's fine too. As I say, I'm not the boss of you. You will notice, however, that on this Substack app, the new logos here in the corner, and that's where the word mark is. And they told me what dimensions to make it, and yet this cuts it off on the right-hand side. I got nothing. All right, let's go to our tweets and toots for this week. Of course, the big news items this week were the Russian potential civil war and losing that sub trying to visit the Titanic with a CEO who treats safety like it's a joke. As I say, like everybody, I was amazed a single group of mercenaries was able to march nearly all the way to Moscow before Putin cut a deal to stop them. I'm not really here to do commentary on this. I include the tweets and the toots because I think they're amusing, but I'm not going to give in-depth commentary on anything like that. I'm not one of these people like in this great meme I saw online. My newfound expertise shifted from submarines to Russian coups. Yeah, good luck with that. I will make a couple of comments. One is that from the people that I respect, I read certain commentators and watch certain people. From the people I respect, it seems like that general didn't really expect to make it all the way there, was really just trying to be heard, that he felt that he was making these protests and nobody was reacting, and he needed Putin to react, which, wow, eventually got Putin's attention. I'm a little surprised that Putin folded like a house of cards, but again, we don't know what was going on under the hood there. We don't know if there's any way he could have stopped him. And apparently Prigozhin wasn't really intending to take over. So it's all over now? Yeah, okay, we'll see about that. At any rate, I like the meme. Here was the couple of great tweets about it. One said, I'm beginning to think giving a psychopath his own private army of criminals was not a good idea. And yeah, I could see that might be an issue. Or this one, which said, mercenaries aren't loyal. I'm shocked by this development. I think she should have said it twice, but hey, it's her post. That's fine. And this one was pretty good too. It said, I never thought criminal mercenaries would invade my face, sobs man who created the criminal mercenary invasion party. In case you don't get that gag, that reference there, here's the original people eating my face party. It's way back from 2015. It says, I never thought leopards would eat my face, sobs woman who voted for the leopards eating people's faces party. Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was pretty good, adopting that meme for the invasion. Like most people, I do not believe this situation is anywhere near over, but I have no idea how it's going to play out or who even to root for in any of this. All I know for sure is it doesn't matter what I do. I mean, my thoughts and opinions are completely irrelevant as for what's actually going on. What I hope is that eventually they completely pull out of Ukraine and Ukraine wins. That's all I want, is Ukraine to win everything. So good luck. I'd say the Slava Ukraini, but I'm sure I'd pronounce it wrong and I don't even have it right yet. But my heart is with the Ukrainians in all of this. Let's move on to the submarine disaster. The issue there, of course, is that in my little social media bubble, the people I socialize with or follow or whatever, there was a lot of schadenfreude about a bunch of rich people going down to the bottom of the ocean and then not making it. Actually, they were making a lot of fun of the fact that, or they weren't making fun, they were appalled by the fact that there was this massive cooperative international effort to find them, when a week earlier 200 refugees went down off the coast of Greece and nobody cared. I get it. I get that. I also know that they are completely unrelated situations. It's not doesn't work like that. And if you honestly are surprised that a billionaire who might reward rescuers suddenly attracted a bunch of rescuers, I don't know what world you think you're living in. I mean, come on, obviously, but it is sad how it all worked out, especially for that kid. Now, the really tragic part is that it was such a self-inflicted wound, because as there was a long Mastodon thread about it that I linked to here that started with this little image showing a computer monitor bolted to the wall. The problem is that wall is carbon fiber, and that's the wall of the sub, and you do not want to introduce cracks into carbon fiber. So I don't know what's actually going on there, but it's hard to believe it's good. And everybody else who's commented on the construction and testing of this sub has said this was a disaster waiting to happen. They were really surprised it made it down and back as many times as it did. The owner clearly cut corners and felt safety was unimportant and paid for it. Okay. As the Toots thread, I want to say tweet thread, but it's on Mastodon. As the Toots thread concluded, it's as if the Challenger disaster had happened because they'd replaced the O-rings with hula hoops instead. Yeah, okay, I get it. So now rich adventurers can take a sub down to see the wreck of the Titanic and the wreck of the last sub to go down to see the wreck of the Titanic and have a selfie right there. Was it $250,000 for a selfie? Good luck with that. I mentioned Elon earlier. He was being Elon again this week. He sent this awful tweet. He said, repeated targeted harassment against any account will cause the harassing accounts to receive, at minimum, temporary suspensions. Now, if you follow Elon at all, you know you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. And sure enough, he followed up with, the words cis or cisgender are considered slurs on this platform. It's tweets like that make you wonder how much of that is him being a troll, just trying to be this smart alecky kid in the back of the room who's trying to entertain his friends and doesn't have any idea that everybody's really laughing at him, not with him. Or he's just that stupid. And I used to think he was the smart alecky kid, and more I'm becoming increasingly convinced he's just an idiot. I mean, he really has no idea. He doesn't understand anything. And of course, he's got all these yes men around him willing to echo whatever he says. So he's not learning anything either. It reminds me of this older meme that came out at the end of last year. It said he talked about electric cars. I don't know anything about cars. So when people said he was a genius, I figured he must be a genius. Then he talked about rockets. I don't know anything about rockets. So when people said he was a genius, I figured he must be a genius. Now he talks about software. I happen to know a lot about software, and Elon Musk is saying the stupidest stuff I've ever heard anyone say. So when people say he's a genius, I figure I should stay the hell away from his cars and his rockets. Yeah, my impression is that the Tesla I have, which I still really like, is probably a solid car because Elon did not interfere too much in its construction. And every SpaceX success is because they have a mechanism to isolate themselves from the lunacy proposed by Elon on a regular basis. After all, he spends all his time tweeting. He doesn't have time to actually manage the companies he's CEO of. Not that he could anyway. It's probably for the best that they keep him busy. But what a colossal idiot. Now, on the good side, the humor from the tweets was excellent. One response was, I have a cis friend, and he said I could say it, right? That was good. Or this one, which mixed a bunch of memes together. Cisgender's a slur. Sure, Grandpa, let's get you to the bottom of the ocean. That's also apparently the meme I didn't talk about this week was the cage match between Zuckerberg and Elon, which no way it's ever going to happen. But if it is, I don't think either guy realizes that the whole world will be rooting for them to pound each other to a pulp. They'll be rooting for blood, you know. I don't think it'll happen, but we'll see. This one threw in the orcas that are currently attacking those boats in the Mediterranean. I put in a headline. I didn't actually link to the news article about those killer whales toss yacht around like rag doll and the 20th orca attack in a month. I'm actually going to the Mediterranean next week. I'll more about that later. But this was the best reply of all. Was this one to say, do you mean the hashtag sissyfit? That's fantastic because it laughs at him in a way he can't help but see. I mean, you know, he spends all his time looking himself up over there, you know, tracking his own mentions, and call it a sissy fit. Oh, that's just perfect. I love it. So that's what I'm going to refer to it as from now on. Somebody else referred to Elon as Dilbert Stark, and I thought that too was highly inspired. Okay, away from current events. This one says abracadabra. I think I can magnify that. Yep, it's a baby changing station that takes the baby and closes it up in the baby changing station, opens it up, and now it's a kitty. A cat anyway. They didn't have those when my son was a kid, so it's probably just as well. This one I marked as I'd listen to that. The tweet says, or this is a toot, says, I really want some Spanish and Portuguese transgender musicians to start an orchestra and call it the Trans-Iberian Orchestra. Yes, of course. For those who didn't get the reference there, let me bring that up. So this is Trans-Siberian Orchestra. They have a fan club, and they are an American rock band that plays a lot of Christmas music and heavy metal style and all of that. It's pretty funny. So I thought that was actually a pretty clever pun. I'll have to talk to my friends in Spain and see what they say about it. But I do have a few friends in Spain that I could ask about this. I have to do that. Okay, moving on. Oh, I don't know how you're going to feel about this, but this cracked me up. This is a chess puzzle. Look at all the queens there. White has a king and 2 pawns, and the puzzle says white to move and win. It's a mate in 1. Of course, all you do is move that pawn up a square, and that checkmates the opposing king. But look at that. I mean, you can't get it more dominant than this. And in fact, by the way, you may have noticed, that's not even a real chessboard. It's got too many rows, too many columns on that. But it's hysterical. I liked it. You may not enjoy it. The people I've shown it to are not as into chess as I am, so they didn't care. But I thought that was really funny. And then finally, 1970s band puns for the win. This one says, actually, let me magnify that too. Before calculators, people used an, and of course, this is the band ABBA, and this is the band KISS. So the solution, of course, is they used an abacus. Yeah, I know. I should apologize. Oh, wait. What I definitely have to do is this. Have a great week, everybody. I mentioned next week I'm actually going to be in the Mediterranean. What's going on there is I received an invitation to Crete, Crete, on the island of Crete in the Mediterranean. I normally am not able to go. It conflicts sometimes with UberConf, but this time it didn't. And I asked my wife the question basically in the form of, hey, you want to spend a week in the Mediterranean this July? And of course, now we're going. So she's coming along. I don't know what shape I'm going to be in order to produce a newsletter next week, but I imagine I'll be able to produce something. And then I'll spend the week there, which will do something to hopefully get out of completely pasty geek mode. I am one of those people who believe that we have walls to keep the outside outside. I mean, after all, that's where all the allergies are, except they're not all out there, but a lot of them are. And the consequence of that is I tend to be a little on the pale side. That's the hardest part of watching these videos is go, oh my goodness, I need some kind of color. I need a tan, something. So we'll see if that happens next week or if I'll burn to a crisp. I don't know. I do hope to get the newsletter done. I'll see everybody next week, and just thank you once again for watching this, and good luck. Take care.